everybody. My name is Jeff Mattis here at the Leading Practice. Wanted to extend a warm welcome to all of you as we get into our 2021 Internet Marketing Plan. We have a nice guest with us today, the CEO and founder of the Leading Practice, Michael Smith. He's going to talk to us on this topic about how you can improve your 2021 marketing plan to make sure that you can get as many new patients as possible. So sit back, enjoy the next 60 to 90 minutes or so as we talk about this subject. Feel free to type in any questions you want into the Q&A panel. We'll see if we can get to as many of those as possible. So Michael, we'll give it to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, welcome. As Jeff said, welcome to our 2021 Internet Marketing Plan. I'm really excited to be unpacking some of the strategies that we use for our clients, have been successful in helping them grow their practice. And we're going to cover a lot of information today, so be prepared. If you have the workbook, we'll talk about how you can get that if you don't have it in just a minute. And first, though, let's dive into what we're going to discuss during our session today, okay? So I want to say at the outset that this is not a sales pitch video or a webinar. We're not going to be pitching our program. At the end, if you're interested in having someone do all this work for you, well, great. But we really want to give you a lot of value for how you can implement some of the strategies that we use at the Leading Practice to grow our clients, getting as much as a 900% ROI. So what are we going to cover in our program today? First, we're going to talk about setting goals. So if you have not set goals yet for your practice, we're going to discuss how you can do that. We're going to walk through the steps, help you set goals to reach your target, even to the point of how many leads are you going to need to reach that target. We're going to help you figure that out. We're also going to break down the 3 fundamentals of marketing success. If you do not have these 3 fundamentals, you will not succeed with your marketing plan, okay? It's required. So we're going to break that down and show you how to implement them. Next, we're going to talk about how to optimize your website for conversion. So many websites are just essentially an online business card, and they don't actually convert patients. So how can you change that? How can you turn your website into a patient conversion machine or funnel? We're going to walk you through some of the things that are needed. And lastly, we're going to talk about the big picture, really how you can take all these different marketing channels and implement them, strategize them into marketing your specific practice and driving more leads, more new patients in the door. So we're going to talk about all those things. By the end of this webinar, you should have developed a custom action plan for your specific practice marketing strategy that you can feel comfortable that will give you a nice return on your investment. Now, I want to throw out some rules of engagement. Often, if you're like me, when you tune into a webinar or even watch a replay like this, you're kind of half paying attention because you're so busy. Maybe you're doing other work, maybe you're treating patients or doing paperwork in your practice. But if you want to get the most benefit from this webinar, we're going to ask you to do some specific things. Number 1, turn off your cell phone. Put it in airplane mode. You need to eliminate distractions. That includes Facebook, any other messaging that you might have turned on that's going to grab your attention and could cause you to miss some of the value in this webinar. We want you to go ahead and eliminate those distractions. So just take a minute right now, mute your phone, put on airplane mode, flip it over face down, and so that it won't become a distraction. And the reason is, if you're a chiropractor or a functional medicine practitioner, or really even any business owner can benefit from this, we're going to blow your mind with the strategy that we put together in the next 60 to 90 minutes. So we need your full participation. Now, lastly, if you decide to stay till the end, which I know is hard to do when you have a busy schedule, we want to reward that effort. Okay, so at the very end, we're going to give you some free takeaways, some handouts that you can use to implement in your practice. That some of it we're going to discuss during the webinar. Others are going to be tools that you can use, handouts that you can implement in your marketing program. First, we're going to give you the marketing wheel, which shows you the different aspects of marketing that you need to be implementing in your program. You're going to hear the term the 12-pole approach. What does that mean? 12 poles. Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the keywords that you're going to need to use for your SEO. And in fact, we've already done all that research for you, and we're going to give that to you at the end of the webinar in a nice handout, as well as our ultimate marketing guide or checklist, right? So all the things that we do for our clients that get them results, we're going to do and hand that to you so you can go through and really keep track of the things that you're implementing from the program today. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about me. Personally, I get irritated when a presenter spends all his time talking about their credentials and all this stuff. I'll just give you the highlights, okay? I've been owning and operating a digital marketing agency for about 12 years. We are associate members of the California Chiropractic Association. We work exclusively with chiropractors and functional medicine practitioners now, and we have a proven track record. We measure our success. We have measured and optimized campaigns and strategies, and that's what we're going to share with you. And these have worked across the United States, okay, from East Coast to West Coast. As we implement them, we're seeing that they work, and they're going to work for you. So moving on to the value, what do you get if you work with us? Well, again, this is not a pitch video, but I just want to highlight probably the biggest value that I think we as a marketing agency offer, and that is a 400% return on investment. Now, most marketing companies that consider themselves our competition, they don't even track your return. They don't track your leads or your return on your investment to see what kind of return you're getting. We find that it works really well if we do track it, because then as we see that we're getting an average of a 400% ROI, even higher as you're going to see in one case study, well, it just makes it a no-brainer, right? If you give me $1 and I give you $4 back, well, that's a pretty wise investment. Now, that's enough about us. Let's talk about you. How about you as a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner, practice manager that's tuned in today or even watching this video? What's the hardest part about marketing your practice online? I'd love to get your feedback in the chat window. If you can pop that open, drop a couple things in that you feel are the hardest part about marketing your practice online. What are some things that you see? Not enough time, absolutely, right? You're busy, you're treating patients. You don't have enough time to manage that. Not knowing what to do, that's a common problem as well. Not knowing exactly what should you do, SEO, should you do Facebook, what should you be doing, and how do you do it? How do you manage the ads? Certainly can appreciate that. Not getting good results in the past. That's a very common one that we hear a lot. Maybe you spent money and you just haven't got the results that you were hoping for. It wasn't measured, wasn't tracked, or didn't give you any return, and that can make us a gun shy. A lot of other reasons as well, but certainly those are the things that really gave us the reasons for putting this program together, because we're going to address every one of those pain points and show you how you can overcome them and get a better return on your investment. Now, if you did not yet download the workbook, please go ahead and visit that URL, go.theleadingpractice.com/workbook. Okay, it's a multi-page document. It's designed for you to work through as we go through this program, and you're going to be able to answer some of the questions and benefit from this a lot better if you have the workbook there in front of you. Now, let's talk about the why. Why do we need to discuss laying out a 2021 internet marketing strategy for your practice? Why is that so important? Well, here's some of the problems. Some of these were already mentioned by you already. There's so many options, right? It's unclear. Where do I spend my budget? Maybe you've allocated a certain amount of money to put back into marketing, but where do you put that money to get the best return? Do you pay an assistant, for example, to just post on social media? Do you run a pay-per-click Google ad campaign? Do you do Facebook ads? Do you do SEO? Do you redesign your website? What do you do, right? That's a common question. Where do I start? Who do I trust? How much do I spend? How do I measure the results? All of those things are problematic. And if they're not addressed, they can create the next problem that we see, which is a money problem, right? So maybe when you think about spending money on marketing, what comes to your mind? What kind of emotional reaction do you have when someone brings up spending money on marketing? Well, if you're like most business owners, you're thinking, oh, that's the last thing I want to spend money on, right? I just give those guys money and I don't seem to get anything back. Maybe you'd rather go spend it on a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, right? So you're thinking, at least that's tangible. I can drive it and enjoy it. And yet, did you know that car is one of the most is one of the fastest depreciating vehicles on the market today. You lose more money buying a car like that than many other investments. But what's the problem with marketing? Why are we so anti-marketing? Well, the reason is because we don't see or have not experienced the value, right? We haven't gotten the return that we should be getting. What's another problem that we face when it comes to marketing? We haven't got much to show for it, right? Again, no value. We just end up with drained pockets and nothing in return. So what does all that lead to? Well, put a 1 in the chat if you feel that you've experienced at least one or more of those problems when it comes to marketing. The end result is what? Well, end result is a big fail, right? Because if you don't have a clear plan, then what happens? Well, you can overspend, or even worse, you can underspend and underperform. Now that might be a foreign concept. What do you mean? If I spend little, then I lose little. But really there's a correlation to how much you invest and what the return is going to be on that. And so really that fail just puts a bad taste in everybody's mouth when it comes to marketing. And that's what we're going to address. So let's move into the positive of this webinar. Let's address the problem with the opportunity. What opportunity do you have here by tuning in today in our program? We're going to discuss how you can develop the number one step that you need to take as a practice owner or practice manager. You have to have a clear plan with goals, targets, and KPIs, right? A way to measure and track the leads that are coming in. What is not tracked cannot be measured, right? So if you're not measuring it because you're not tracking it, you're never going to see the return that you're getting, even if you are getting a return. So we're going to talk about how to develop a clear plan with goals, targets, and KPIs and how to put them in place. Next, a big issue is with growing a practice. The number one thing that you really need is to generate enough new patients to hit those targets that you set, hit those goals, and keep your practice running smoothly. So my question to you is, do you know how many new patients you need? Well, really, that depends on what your goals are, right? What's your plan? What's your target? We're going to break this down a little bit later in our webinar, and you're going to be able to put some real numbers to this and figure out exactly how many new patients you need to reach those goals. Now, lastly, a marketing program should not be a pit, right? It's not something we throw money in and never know we get out of it. You should get a great return on an investment. As we mentioned, 400% is ideal. And the only way you're going to get that is if you track and you measure and you see the return. So we're going to show you exactly how to do that. What's the end result? With a clear plan, goals, targets, KPIs, measurement, you're going to have success, right? You're going to maximize your lead flow, and you're going to see how you hit those sales goals for 2021 over the next 12 months. Let's dive right in to the specifics of what we're going to be talking about with setting clear goals. Now, I really love this quote from Brian Tracy, and you'll find this in pages 4 to 6 of your workbook. You'll notice in the upper right corner we have a little bookmark, and so if you're tuned in, you're watching a video, you can open your workbook and you'll see exactly what page correlates with what we're discussing on the screen. But Brian Tracy said, "Success is goals; all else is commentary." Right? And that's just a great quote, because without goals, you're just wandering aimlessly, right? You can't expect to grow your practice or get any real return out of your marketing program. You gotta have goals in place. Clear goals really is what puts the wind in your sails, right? Because now you're motivated. Now you know what your target is, where you're aiming, what your return is. And then when you see that return come in, now you feel good about that plan. And all of a sudden, a change happens, right? Marketing, instead of becoming this money pit, starts to become an investment, right? You're buying into something knowing that, hey, last month, I spent $1,000 and I earned $4,000. Wow, that's pretty cool. So really, it just makes life better too, because we're not irritated about a marketing program. Now, when we talk about goals, I thought this Harvard study was really interesting. Maybe you've heard this before. This was a 1979 interview of graduates, and it was interesting to break down and how those that had goals or didn't have goals what their end result was, right? So 84% had no specific goals. 13% had goals, but they did not write them down, right? So they kind of had something in mind, but never actually wrote them down, didn't pursue them. 3% had clear written goals and plans to accomplish them. Now you're probably wondering, so what's the result of that? Well, here's the result. The 13% of that class, right? Those that had the goals but not written down, they were earning on average twice as much as those that didn't have goals, right? So they doubled their revenue by simply having goals. But then even more staggering, right, is that top 3% that wrote down their goals and they had a strategy and a plan, they were earning on average 10 times as much as all that other 97% put together. So my question to you is, where do you fit in? Are you in the 84%, not really interested in having goals, just not really interested in pursuing becoming a leading practice in your market? Or are you one that's going to write them down, become the top 3%, and see that revenue and goals reached and the revenue climb? Well, that's really up to you, but obviously this program is designed for those who are interested in pursuing goals. And we're going to talk about how you can lay out that plan. Now, in order to set goals, you have to have a goal setting framework, right? Because otherwise you're like, I don't know where to start. Where do I start with goals? What kind of goals do I set? So first, you need to have a written goal and plan, right? So you got to write them down. And in our workbook, there's a page there, pages 4 to 6. You can use that for writing down some of the goals that you have for your practice. We recommend writing down 3 different goals. So one, you have to have a long range goal, right? 1 year from now, where do you want your practice to be? Maybe it's a revenue threshold. Maybe it's something to do with freeing up time, spending more time with your family. Maybe it's spending more time on the golf course. Whatever that is, write down those goals. And then we're going to break that down into quarterly goals that will help you reach that 1 year goal, and then monthly goals that will help you reach the quarterly. And by doing that and checking month over month, you're going to see that you have a starting and stopping point, and you're going to be building. And as your program progresses, well, you're going to start to correct that course and you're going to reach those goals. So once you have the framework in place, it's time to set the goals, right? So what are your goals? Take a moment and write them down. What's your revenue target for 2021? What kind of growth would you like to see? Maybe you're at $500,000 a year and you'd like to go to 750. Or maybe you're at 650,000, you'd like to go to 900,000. Or maybe you're at 1.2 and you'd like to get to 1.5. Whatever it is for you, write that down based on your revenue that your practice earns and where you'd like to grow based on a reasonable percentage. And then we'll break that down into a monthly goal, right? So what kind of monthly revenue do I need in order to earn that? And then how many new patients does that mean that I need to get? Right? Because revenue comes from not only our existing patients, but our new patients. So we need to look at that. Where's that revenue coming from? And how many new patients do I need to get to reach that next level? Lastly, what is your average patient annual value? In other words, on average, if you take an average over the course of a 12-month period, you have so many patients that visited that practice and so much revenue that you earn that practice. Well, what's the average over each patient? In other words, how many visits does each patient make, and how much do they spend with your practice? Maybe it's $700, $800, $100 in a year, for example, the average. So some might spend $2,000, $5,000 even. Others might only spend $50 or $100, and then they don't come back. But what's the average? That's what we use as our benchmark for determining those revenue goals. So let's look at a quick example, and I'm going to invite you to go ahead and write down your goals. What is your target revenue growth? Maybe you're trying to get 250,000 increase, right? You're trying to go from 600 to 850 as an example, right? $600,000 a year to 850. So what is that a month? Well, that's $20,833 or $20,833 a month. That's the increase you need to see coming in on average for your practice. Well, what's your patient annual value? Well, again, if you take that total revenue, divide it by the number of patients you saw, you're going to come up with a number. And I just kind of picked a nice medium average. Let's assume that each patient on average over the course of 12 months will spend about $950 with our practice. Well, what does that mean? Well, that breaks down real nice and easy, doesn't it? Because now I can take the total monthly target and divide it by 950. That's the value that each new patient is going to bring to the practice. And I come up with 22 new patients. So 22 new patients every month. That's what I need to eventually reach my goal by the end of the year. Now, as you know, not every patient visits that practice all those times in the first month, right? Spread over the course of the year. But at least you know what your average is based on real numbers for your practice. So just take a minute, go ahead and write that down. I'm going to go back to our previous slide here. Write down what your numbers are. What's your growth? What's your target growth? How much is that monthly? How much is that annually? And then how many new patients does that come out to be? I'm going to give you just a minute to go ahead and write those down. If you don't have the numbers, maybe you have a rough guess, or just go through the exercise, and you can always do this later as well. But at least you'll have some good numbers to work with. And once you know that number of new patients, well, it gets a lot easier going forward to know whether your marketing program is successful or not. So, all right. So hopefully you've had a chance to do that now, and you've written in those numbers. At least you have a close guess. And let's move on now to break it down to the next step, right? In order to get new patients, what do you need? Well, you need leads, right? A lead becomes a patient. You got to have someone who's interested that you can convert to a patient. So the question is, how many patients will you, or how many leads will you need? We know for our practice, in our example, we need 22 new patients, but how many leads do I need in order to close those 22 patients? Well, that depends on your average conversion rate, right? So what is your conversion rate? That means if I get 100 leads that come in through my website, through Facebook, or call my practice, or send me an email, or submit a web form, how many of them out of 100 will actually turn into real patients? Now, if you have that statistical tracking that you've been doing over time, well, it's easy to see. If not, you might have to take an estimate, because you're going to divide that number, the total, by the conversion rate, right? So let's look at an example. So let's say my average conversion rate is 60%, right? So if I get 100 new leads in from my website, I get 100 phone calls, or let's say they're a mix. I get phone calls, I get emails, I get a chat message on Facebook, on my website. But all in all, I get 100 leads that come in. I can convert about 60 of them on average. The other 40, they just don't seem to turn around for us. Well, then what's my conversion rate? Well, 60%. So now when I know I need 22 new patients, I can do an inversion calculation, right? 22 new patients divided by that 60%, or 0.6, will tell me exactly how many leads I need to get, right? 37 leads per month. So for me, in our example calculation, if I get 37 leads a month, I know I can convert them, 60% of them, into patients. And that will guarantee me that I'm going to get 22 patients for my practice. Now, if I get those 22 patients, I've already done the math. I know I'm going to be increasing my revenue by $250,000 this year. So hopefully that helps you see how you can really get a good firm handle on how you can grow your practice from leads to patients and so on. Now, let's talk about the worksheet a little bit. If you have not clicked on or opened the worksheet, the link should be in your workbook. If not, I put the website right there at the top, right? It's go.theleadingpractice.com/2021-worksheet. And that worksheet is all lowercase. And if you pull that up, you're going to get a beautiful Google Sheet that will show you exactly how you can calculate what we just did. And in fact, it will do all the math for you, right? So make sure you take advantage of that. If you don't have it, you stay till the end. In the rewards bucket, we're going to give you access to a whole bunch of cool stuff. You'll be able to download it from there as well. So let's talk about goals. What's your goal for 2021? Did you set it yet? Do you feel like you got a good handle on what those goals are? Did you set a revenue number? Do you have a new lead calculation and a new patient calculation yet? Do you know how many leads you're going to need to get there? Well, hopefully you do. If not, after this webinar is concluded, by all means, go through the steps and you'll have a nice clear picture of what your target is and how to get there. Now, let's talk about the how, right? The how do we actually get there? How do I get those new patients? How do I get those leads? Well, let's move into getting the fundamentals right with your marketing program. Now, a lot of chiropractors and functional medicine practitioners, and I'm telling you, we look at chiro and functional medicine websites all day long, and they're done by a range of different types of individuals, right? Some are done by popular marketing companies, and they're kind of mediocre. I call them a little bit cookie cutter websites. Others are homegrown. Some are done by one-off agencies, but a lot of them, regardless of where they come from, the marketing program misses the fundamentals, right? You got to have the fundamentals right in order to get the results that you're looking for in your marketing program. So what does that look like? Well, let's break it down. And it really amounts to three different things, right? So one, you have to know your market. You have to know who it is that you're reaching out to, right? Because although it maybe almost anybody and everybody could benefit from a chiropractic visit, almost anybody and everybody could benefit from a functional medicine check-in, right? And assessment, health assessment, diagnosis. The reality is when you're marketing not to anybody and everybody, you have to be marketing to an individual. We're going to break that down for you. Second, what is the message, right? What should be in those social posts? What should be in the ad content? What should be in the emails that's going to target and reach those individuals? Because we all know we get hammered with emails all the time. Emails, we see social posts all the time. And if they're not attention grabbing and valuable to me as a viewer, if you're like me, you just go and you just scroll right on through and ignore that entire content because it's no value. Last, media, right? What kinds of photos and videos are going to help you with your conversion? Now, let's talk about the first part of this, right? Let's talk about the market, the who, right? Who is it that we're marketing to? Who are those people? Now, I see practices all the time that are throwing content out there, right? They have a social media and they're posting it regularly. I see it on LinkedIn. I see it on Facebook. Some are even doing Twitter and TikTok. But the reality is, what happens? Well, if you look at the bottom of the post, right underneath the post, what do you see? You see that there's three buttons, right? There's a like button, a comment button, and a share button. Now, often as I'm looking through this content from these practices and practice owners, the ones that are good are actually at least putting some content out there. But still, I see no likes, no comments, no shares, no engagement, right? No one is really even looking at or reading or commenting on the content, which means it's not converting new patients. It's not engaging them. And all that effort now becomes wasted. Why? Because we're missing one or more of the fundamentals. We have to know who our ideal patient is, right? You got to know who that is, and you got to be able to speak to them. So that's really the market, right? Are you focusing with this particular message, for example, in a campaign on an older person, someone who's maybe elderly, dealing with arthritis or joint problems? Well, then everything you do in that should really target them, right? An athlete should target an athlete, speak to an athlete. We don't want to cross-contaminate our message with the market that we're speaking to, or they'll see it as of little value and they'll stop viewing it. Now, how do we determine what our ideal patient is? Well, it's important to do that, right? It's important to identify your patient, what's called an avatar. Now, if you're not familiar with what an avatar is, it's basically a way of describing your ideal patient, their demographics, their goals, desires, their dreams and aspirations, what's their pains and frustrations, what are their fears, what is it that drives them, right? So pages 8 to 10 of our workbook give you some nice lists of things that you can use to define your ideal patient avatar. What do they look like? Are they an athlete? What's their age? What's their gender? What are their interests? Are they married, not married? What are their dreams? What do they like to do for recreation, right? Do they have pets? These are all things that we have to identify because That's what's of interest to them. And then, of course, knowing what their pains are, their frustrations, what are their fears? Why haven't they already gone to see a chiropractor or a functional medicine practitioner? What's their holdup? What do they hope to get from you? What is it that would make them come to you as opposed to maybe a medical doctor or some other type of treatment? Well, you have to define that, and that will help you optimize your marketing program. Now, what's the end result if we really fine tune that patient avatar? It's this right here. If you can see Joe Jones through Joe Jones' eyes, you can sell Joe Jones what Joe Jones buys, right? So that's a tongue twister. Don't try to say it 3 times in a row, or you might bite your tongue. But you get the point, right? Because you do this already as a practitioner. You have to know your treatment. You have to see what their pain is through their eyes. But often we don't do it with our marketing program. We just kind of throw caution to the wind and off it goes. So it's got to be through their eyes. And then they're going to buy from us, essentially, is what will happen. Next, second big piece of our fundamentals is the message. What kind of message should we be giving that target audience, right? Well, let's break it down. So let's talk about building the offer, okay? So here's some things that you need to ask yourself before you publish any content or ads out there. For example, what I often see on websites is that we have this new patient special. Click here and fill out the form. But often there's nothing else about that offer, right? So yeah, I'm being asked as a patient to go ahead and click the new patient offer button, fill out my name, email, address, phone number, but I have no idea what it costs. I have no idea what's in it. I don't know if it's going to help me or not. The only thing that I'm confident is that, yep, I'm probably a new patient. So really, how much is missing from that offer? Well, it's not very enticing. Now, if you tell me what's in it, like why is it valuable to me? What is it that you're going to do for me in that special? Are you going to give me an exam? What kind of exam? Am I getting x-rays? Am I getting maybe a short massage? What kind of treatment am I getting? Well, now all of a sudden, I'm more interested in claiming that offer, right? That could be a huge difference, that little switch between someone actually filling out the new patient special and then just seeing it and going, I'm going to go look somewhere else for something that appeals to me. Number 3 is it easy for me to claim that offer? Sometimes web forms don't work, right? Or you can't find it and you got to do 4 clicks to get to the claim the offer. And patients, people's attention span is really low now. And so their patience level is low and they don't want to go through all those hoops, right? So you got to make it easy for them to claim the offer, sign up, and then claim it. Lastly, what prevents me from not showing, right? So no-shows are a huge problem in practices across at least the United States that we speak with. Probably it's a problem for you as well. How do you prevent them from not showing? We're going to talk about some ways that you can implement that in your offer, but all those things have to be addressed if you want the offer to be successful. Now, I'll give you just a minute to talk about and write down your message. Okay, so think about your practice. Think about what you offer. If you work with other doctors, what do they offer in your practice? Why would someone choose to do business with you or come to get treated by you versus the next chiropractor that shows up on the Google search results, right? Why would they come to you over the next competitor? Write down at least 3 things that you feel puts you above. Maybe it's the way you treat them. Maybe it's a specialized type of treatment that you offer that most don't offer. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the way that they feel coming in to your practice, for example, or even the results that you've gotten. What is it that makes you stand out from your competition? Take a moment, write down 3 things, and then we'll talk about the next steps. I'll give you just a minute to write those down. Let me go back to the previous slide. What is your message? Why would someone do business with you over someone else? So go ahead and make a note. We'll give you just another 30 seconds or so to write those down. Maybe you're thinking of what your patients will say, for example, when they come in, right? What do they like about you? Think about things that they've said, they've voiced, and that often will help you determine what those things are. The next big aspect of this, okay, so hopefully you've got at least those three. A similar question, but slightly different. What benefits do you offer that your target customer avatar will resonate with? Now, on first glance, you might be thinking, isn't that the same question you just asked? What makes me better than the competition? The answer is no. Notice the last part of the question. What benefits do you offer that your target customer avatar will resonate with, right? So who is your avatar? Who is your target patient? Why will they resonate with what you're offering, right? So if for example, if you're treating athletes and that's your target, right? CrossFit athletes, that kind of demographic, what is it that you do that specifically will help them? That's the important thing to write down in these three things. So just take a minute, write down what benefits that you offer that maybe a Joe practitioner down the street does not offer, right? He just doesn't do the same thing that you do that makes you unique. Make a note of that because that needs to go in your marketing messaging. I'll give you another 20 seconds to make a couple quick notes. All right, let's move on. Hopefully you've got some good feedback there. You're able to give that some thought. Now, let's talk about the media part of this three fundamental triangle that we're discussing here. And that's the how we convey that offer, right? What is it that goes into the media? You might be thinking, well, isn't a photo just a photo? Isn't a video just a video? I mean, does it really matter what goes into that ad? I mean, do people even look at it? Don't they just look at it for like 2 seconds and click it anyway? The answer is no. The answer is yes, it does matter, and no, they just don't click it anyway. It can have a huge impact on whether they click or don't click, which is a patient versus a non-patient or non-conversion. So it can have a huge impact on them. What can help us? Well, your media should do these 4 things, right? Number 1, your media should resonate with the patient, right? Should be specific to them. Don't just put a random picture of flowers on your social media post and expect that to resonate with the patient. If they can't connect with it, see themselves in it, it doesn't matter how cool the graphics look. If it doesn't engage them, they're just not going to be interested and they're not going to convert. And that goes with number 2. Are they excited or engaged as a viewer? Did you hook them and did you catch their curiosity? Or did you just tell them something like chiropractic can help with allergies? Okay, that's great. What does that really tell me? I've got an allergy problem. How can you help me? What are you going to do for me, right? So engage the viewer. Maybe a video, for example, can do that. Tell me how that you're going to help my allergy treatment. Show me an example, a testimonial from a patient who you've helped and how it made them feel better. Now I'm inclined to come in. So that really leads us to number 3, which is clearly depict the value, right? You got to depict the value. Just putting something like come in for an appointment. Here's our practice. Doesn't our office look cool? Here's a view of our parking lot. You know, that kind of stuff really doesn't depict the value of what it is that you're doing. And so if you don't have that, it's really a waste of media. It's a waste of a post. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of work, a waste of marketing budget if you don't take it to that level. And last is they really should be local photos or images or videos. We prefer even over images and videos. By local, I mean real photos of you, your team, your patients, your life, right? Not just canned stuff that marketing companies put out there. Hey, use our social posts. They work really well in your market. They're cheap, but they don't convert, right? They don't help you. So take some time, just use a smartphone, go through your practice, and take local photos. Click to call phone number. Yep, a lot of web designers don't make that click to call, but the reality is when you pull it up on your mobile device, most visitors want to click to call, and that's what they'll do. And if they have to type in the number, it's just opportunity for distraction. It might seem small, but it can make a difference in whether they take action or they don't. What else? New patient special, detailing that. Yes, you got to detail out that new patient special, right? Tell me what's in it. Make it cool. Social media links. Yours are at the bottom. Yeah, they should be at the top. Yeah, social media links should definitely be at the top of your website, right? Because some people, that's all they look for is those links. So again, you're losing patients if you don't have that stuff in the right spot. Last one I just noticed came in, reviews. You got to have your reviews. Just put them right there on the home page. Pull them in from Google. Again, our software makes that easy. If you choose to use it, but there's a lot of ways that you can embed your Google reviews right on your homepage without going through a fancy third-party $300 a month program. Just nice and easy, get those Google reviews right on your homepage, and people love to see that. Can help them engage and take action. So good. So look forward to seeing you implement some of those things in your website and seeing the conversion rate go up, we hope. Now, let's talk about the next step, right, which is the biggest issue that, biggest marketing issue that chiropractors face. And you probably know what that is. It's what in part what we've been talking about, unconverted leads, right? Those are leads that at one point expressed interest, right? Either they looked at our Facebook page, they looked at our website, maybe they clicked on a YouTube video, or somehow they saw us on LinkedIn. They're a lead, they're interested, but they didn't convert into a patient. And that's a big problem. In fact, it's a huge problem. Would you be surprised to learn that 50 to 60% of inbound leads, people that somehow come in contact looking for maybe your service, leave unconverted? Huge problem, right? Big opportunity to get those patients in the door. 90%, and this is one reason, 90% of web forms don't convert. Right? So people have web forms and they got them in the wrong spot, or they don't work, or they don't go to the right person. They don't track. There's no follow-up, and all of that. They collect the wrong information. Leads to that. That's a critical piece of the handoff from your website converting into a patient. And sadly, there's a lot of loose ends when it comes to that. Now, why is it that leads don't convert? What are the top reasons why we see across the board that leads just don't turn into patients? And here's the answer, okay? Number one, leads are not followed up with, right? So they call the practice, or they text, or they email. Text goes nowhere because you're using some one-way text platform that doesn't do two-way, and you never even know a text message came in, right? That's a big problem. You gotta have inbound text messaging with your business number. Again, our software does that. There's many others that do that. You got to have that in. They got to have an automated follow-up automatically that keeps them from going cold. 5 to 10 minutes. If you let that sit, they've already moved on to your competitor and probably booked an appointment. Second, the average patient must be followed up with 3 to 5 times before booking, right? So that means they may engage and disengage, and engage and disengage. They forget, they get distracted. Maybe their pain gets a little better for a day or two, right? And then it gets worse again. Well, if you're not engaging them, right? You're not reaching out to check in them. You're not sending them a text message. You're not checking them up with an email. You're not replying to that Facebook message that they sent in. Well, you're not engaging them. You're not following up with them. Guess what? They're going to forget about their interest in you, and they're going to move on to your competitor. And third really highlights what we've been talking about, and that's that today's patient, they simply prefer to use text message or chat instead of a phone call or email. A lot of younger people I'm learning don't even get an email. They don't even set it up anymore. It's moving away, but they still use text messaging a lot, right? And so they expect when they text in to your number that someone's going to receive that, and often that's a lead that is going to be lost if you don't have it implemented. So what's the solution? As we talked about, you got to leverage marketing automation, right? Just some basic software that's mapped out, that's designed to engage them within 2 minutes of submission, right? So whether they called It engages if it's during practice hours, for example, when you're open. Our software will initiate a phone call back to that patient if your practice is open, right? To try to get the practice manager or the office person to connect up with that patient, get them connected via phone. It automates a response back and invites them to book an appointment. And if they don't, it follows up with them. Again, the nurture campaign, right, follows up if they book so that we eliminate no-shows and things like that. So that automation can do wonders for taking the pressure off of your practice manager, allowing them to spend more time doing other things for you and really letting the software do the bulk of the work. Really, it comes down to simple math, right? So again, we're talking about unconverted leads. What is the impact on your revenue, right? Because remember earlier we talked about revenue and goals and what your revenue goals are and how many new patients you need. Did you know that you can contribute to that goal and maybe exceed that goal without getting any new patients? How so? It's simply converting the leads, increasing your conversion rate. What do I mean by that? Let's look at an example. So let's take an example that some chiros actually do experience, and that is a low conversion rate, right? They get people coming in, but they don't even know they exist, or they don't follow up, or they slip through the door, or they never get the email, or things happen. And their conversion rate is only maybe 30%. Then there's no follow-up, right? So they're just not converting anything because they don't have the automation in place. And the practice manager's busy and they didn't get back to them till after lunch or the next day. And so what happens is out of 100 leads, they only get 30 new patients. Now that might correlate using our sample calculation here to maybe 28 grand, right? So $28,000 based on those 30 new patients. Now, if you implement the automation, right? Just the simple follow-up routines in your program, what do you get? Well, real quickly, we're going to see the difference, right? So again, let's look at another example. You got the same amount of leads, right? 100 leads come in, but because you've got automated follow-up, not 30% convert, but maybe you get 60 or 70% that actually become patients because you followed up with them. And maybe you didn't even see that. You just knew that they came in and you treated them and everything went good, but you didn't see that there was all this automation that ran that got them to come in. Well, what did that do for your revenue? What did that do for your bottom dollar? Well, that just increased it by taking that 28,000 that we talked about and increasing it by more than double to $66,000, right? So that's a huge increase in monthly revenue just by implementing the automated follow-up. Again, MyDC is a great tool for that. We'll talk about that just briefly, but there's many tools that do automation and you can use just about any of them to accomplish that goal. What's the end result? Well, the end result is that now it makes every lead that you generate more valuable to your practice, right? So now your existing patients' value is going up. So instead of maybe their annual value being $950, maybe they visit 2 or 3 more times in a year. So now their value is going up to $1,200 or $1,300, right? So you're increasing that existing patient value. Here's some software suggestions that we just will throw out there because often you get lost with all these different software programs and marketing programs. And we've seen some chiros get tied into buying into every different thing, right? So they got a text message platform that costs $300 a month, and then they've got a website hosting, and then they've got a review program that's another $300 or $400 a month, and they've got an email system that's another couple $100 a month. And you just go on and on, right? Call tracking, all the stuff. Before you know it, they're spending $1,200 a month in just software. Well, we're just going to make this suggestion to you. You decide if it's for you. MyDC.app, it does all of those things, and it's only $300 a month. It does everything, right? So it'll save you often like 70, 80% on your monthly software expenses. And it really coordinates greatly with every different type of platform that we use. Now, when it comes to building your website, another huge problem, right? A lot of people say, well, don't use WordPress, it's outdated. The reality is that SEO experts still agree, right? That optimized WordPress still works better for ranking in Google. We find that the top ranking sites that we rank and others rank, I'll show you an example in a little bit, they often are optimized WordPress sites, right? They're better than Wix or any of those other things. Lastly, if you want some graphics tools, we recommend Canva. Canva.com is a great tool. It's low cost and it does all kinds of stuff for you and will make your job a lot easier when it comes to developing content for your practice. So now let's implement this in your business, right? So we're going to move on to helping you develop your plan. So first, we got to have a plan. So what is your plan? Hopefully you've got some key takeaways from this webinar so far. What does the patient journey look like for your patient, right? What are the starting points? How does that patient come in and become a lead? What are they interested in? How do you segment them into groups, right? Maybe you got athletes in one group, and you got elderly in another group, and then you got maybe new mothers in another group, maybe pregnant mothers in another group, and so now you're working with children and elderly, and you got them all broken up. What are the starting points, and what's the path look like to engage them? Next, how do you qualify them? How do you determine if a patient is qualified for your practice or not? You got to have those steps spelled out. Maybe it's a basic survey form or something like that. Again, this can all be automated. That can help take the weight off your practice. Lastly, how do they get nurtured along? What kind of reminder campaigns do you have built that's automated, right? How often do you send them a text message, email? How often do you touch base with them? Well, what if you haven't seen that patient in 30 days or more, or maybe even a year, 90 days or a year? What kind of follow-up do you do with them that's all, again, timed and automated, runs as part of your software program to try to get them to come back in, right? Show them a little attention. Again, we're not going to hound them with stuff that they don't want to see. Just a nice, engaging text or email, maybe both, to try to get them to re-engage. Lastly, what action should they take, right? What do you want them to do? So no matter where they come in from, do you want them to book an appointment? In most cases with a practice, that's exactly what you want, right? You want them to book an appointment. Can they do it online? Is it easy for them to do? Can they pay online? Map all that out so that you can then have a clear path for your patient to go along. And then makes it easier to track them. Let's take a moment and write down some action items for you. What 3 conversion elements will you implement on your website, right? So we've talked about a number of different things. Just take a moment and write down 3. Maybe it's adding more content that's local specific or revamping the content. Maybe it's adding your Google reviews. Maybe it's adding your social media links. Maybe it's changing the click to call phone number. Maybe it's adding some trust elements. Maybe it's adding a video. Maybe it's optimizing or revamping, making it a load faster, right? Optimizing the page speed load, because Google will tell you they're really big on this now. If the loading is too slow, they're just going to rank you down. It's got to be fast and performance based, right? In order for Google to rank you in the #1 spot. So write down those 3 things that you're going to implement on your website. All right, so we gave you just a minute. Let's talk about takeaways. What have you learned during this webinar? What did you notice? Anything that you would like to share? I'll go ahead and have you drop it in the chat if you don't mind. What would you like to share that was a highlight for you personally? Key messaging. Excellent. Yep. Got to have the message right? Got to have that right. A lot of people waste time and money on social media. What else? Optimizing your website. Okay, good. That's really important. That's your hub. Got to have that. Determining new patients. Oh, okay. Got it. Yep. So calculating out the new patients that you're going to need and what that looks like. See, isn't that amazing to be able to walk through that process and see how that number of new patients is determined by what your goals are, right? So you set the goal, set the revenue, back it out, and now you know what your marketing program really needs to do to get you those new patients. All right, very good. So we got a few more things coming in, but we're gonna have to keep moving. We're already running overtime. I hope you can stay. If not, we'll send you the replay video. So we're going to talk about last thing is know and track your KPIs, right? So you have to know your KPI, your key performance indicators. What is it that you're tracking? What is it you're trying to get to perform? The way you do that is through charts and electronic analytics, right? So Google Analytics will do some of this for you. Some of it's done through external software, but ultimately you want to be able to look back and see how your campaigns are performing. So in this graph, for example, that you see on the slide, the top one is Google My Business. We're going to talk about Google My Business a little more in just a moment, but that's your Google Map listing, right? Google is huge. They're hugely focused on Google My Business right now. They're giving that attention. And what do you see in that top graph? Well, you see that the actions taken directly from Google My Business have increased for that particular client, right? So number of calls, click to the website, click for directions, those are the kind of actions that they can take. Huge increase from Google My Business. That has nothing to do with their website. So you want to be able to track those things because those are leads that often turn into patients. And that involves some work that you have to do, right? You got to track calls and leads that come in. You have to set up that tracking system, right? Whether you use CallRail or you just use MyDC, it does all the same things all in one spot, or whatever you use, you got to be able to track those phone calls, mark them if they were lead, and determine if that was part of your effective marketing strategy or not. Next, you need to follow the patient journey. What actions did they take along the way, right? So I love how I can look in MyDC as an example, and I can see if a patient clicked on a page in the website, which page did they click on, which form did they fill out, and in order, right? With the date and time, I can see when they paid for that appointment, when they booked their appointment, when they sent the message, and so on. And now you can kind of get a picture of what that patient journey looked like. What actions are they taking? How well did it work? And then that helps you make sure that your conversion mechanisms are actually working. Of course, you got to test those, make sure that they're working before you launch them, and then just watch for new opportunities, right? They roll in, and then you start getting those new patients and treating them. Now, as we kind of start our wrap up period here, so far, you should have at least these 4 things, right? You have a clear goal and target for 2021. You should have some clarity around your marketing message and media, right? Your market, message, and media. Those are 3 things. The who am I targeting? How am I segmenting them? What is my message to each of those groups? And how does my media, video, photos align with those particular messages for those specific groups? Next, you hopefully have made sure that your website is optimized for conversion, right? So you got a nice list of things you can go through and optimize for conversion. Test it out, make sure it works, make sure your leads are actually going to the right spot. And then lastly, I forgot to mention automation that we want to implement as well. So hopefully you've implemented a tool like MyDC or something like that that's doing automated follow-up and automated reviews and all that kind of stuff. And lastly, you set up a KPI tracking dashboard, right? So something that tracks all those leads and phone calls and tells you what you're getting in return. Let's spend the last few minutes here talking about key trends for 2021, right? Some things that really are popular during this particular year based on Google and some of the market in the search engine optimization world. We're going to share some key elements with you. Now, I want to first mention that there's some key shifts, right? One, there's a shift from phone call conversion to message conversion. Well, we talked about that earlier, but in many cases, our generation that's coming up behind some of us that are older, they don't like to make phone calls. They like to message, right? And so we need to have that in place. Recognize that that's a key shift. And if we're not shifting to make messaging available, we are missing out on a huge pool of patients. Number 2, we got to have a 12-pole perspective. Now, what does that mean? Now, we're not talking about bowling, okay? 12-pole, not 12-pin, 12-pole perspective. I'll give you this illustration, right? There's a tourist, maybe you've heard this before, but I love it. He notices a man fishing on a beach, and this man has 12 fishing poles in the water, right? And the tourist looks at it and he's like, why do you got 12 poles in the water? So he asked the fisherman, and what kind of answer does he get? Simply put, he says, more poles equals more fish. It's just that simple. See, if he just puts in a few fishing poles or just one, he might get enough fish to feed his family. But when he puts 12 poles in the water, now he gets enough fish to feed his family and sell back to the market, and he's actually turning a profit. He has a business. So when you think about marketing now, how many poles do you have in the water? When I say poles, I'm referring to different marketing channels in the digital marketing realm, right? One is SEO. That could be a pole in the water. Next is pay-per-click using Google Ads. Last or next is Facebook ads. What about review generation? What about retargeting? What about text message and email marketing? Well, we could go on, right? But do you have a 12-pole perspective? Do you recognize that the more poles you have in the water, the more new patients you're going to get? Now, you could dump a ton of money into one of those channels, right? You could spend 10 grand a month on just SEO, but you're not going to get the return, right? I could go out and spend 5 grand on one fishing pole, but I'd be way better off spending that 5 grand on 12 poles, right? Because I'm going to get a better return on my investment. So have that perspective when it comes to your marketing program. Now, let's talk about search results a little bit, how search results are impacted, right? So this, again, this correlates with our 12-pole results. So let's imagine that you're a prospective patient, and here you are, you're searching for a chiropractor for your area, right? Someone to give you the service that you need. This is a San Francisco search. And what do you see in the results? You want to draw attention to 3 specific areas that Google provides results, right? So the first one at the top is Google Ads, or it used to be called AdWords, right? Those are pay-per-click campaigns. They cost money to be put on the top, but that's the first section of results. Second, it's called the Google Map Pack or the Google My Business, right? You see all the reviews, you see the little map shown in the results, and then below that, you've got the usually 3 results or maybe sometimes 4 with an ad, and they often show the reviews, right? It's called the Google Map Pack. So that's the second section of area of Google search results. And then lastly, at the bottom, you see the organic results, or what we often refer to as SEO. Now, I want to take just a quick minute. Those are the 3 areas, and we're going to break those down. But I have to highlight something about this particular search result. Now, you can actually search this yourself, right? So if you type in those keywords at the top there, San Francisco chiropractor, did you notice in the results we have 2 of the same company? That's actually our client, right? So I just want to give a quick props to our team. SF Custom Chiropractic is one of our clients. And last week we were able to get them not 1, but 2 spots in the Google Map Pack. And that's just huge, right? That's almost unheard of, especially in a city like San Francisco, metropolis area. And so we're able to do that for a keyword like San Francisco chiropractor. Had to give a quick props to our team. They did a great job in getting those results. Going to really get them some nice traffic from that result. Now, let's talk about the breakdown of these results. So as you're looking at this slide, keep in mind that we're basically taking the same thing I just showed you on the last slide, and we're just splitting it up into 3 columns, right? So you're gonna follow the right column, or the left column there is the very top. Those are the ads, and then as you were scrolling down, you're gonna see that middle section, and if you keep scrolling down, you're gonna see the right section. Now, my question to you is, let's imagine you're looking for a chiropractor in this town. We know that there's 430 people searching for this every month, but you're one of the patients. Which company would you call first? So I'd like you to go ahead and drop the actual company name. Now, I don't want to know which one you click on, but which company would you call first? Which one jumps out at you? So go ahead and throw it in the chat if you don't mind. Okay, so I see a few are noticing Discover. Okay, Discover, Kaufman, a couple Kaufmans. Somebody said Bothell. Okay, so what do you notice from that results? Well, the result is, I love doing this exercise because when you ask different people the same question, every one of them will give you a different answer, right? So I do this with teams of chiropractors during our discovery calls, right? So I'll walk them through this. And you inevitably you get one guy will say, I never click on ads, right? Because I don't want to give money to Google. I go straight to that middle section. And then someone else will say, well, I just click on the first one I see. Usually it's the ad at the top, and then that's the first one I click on. And then they look at each other and they're like, really? You click on an ad? Yeah, you skip the ad, because people are all different. So what's the reality of the search results? What does this tell us about people? The reality is that as you look at the results, which one do you see that appears the most? right? Which of these chiropractic practices is appealing to all of those different audiences? Which one is in all the spots? Well, the answer is Kaufman Chiropractic, right? So Kaufman has an ad in play. They've got an ad in a Google Map Pack. They've got a regular Google Map Pack listing or local map pack, and they've got an organic ranking of number 2. So what does that mean for them? Why is that critical to be in all those spots? Well, it's simple math, right? It's simple statistics. The more exposure you're out there, the more of the traffic you're going to get. The reality is, statistically, 14% of people will click on one of those ads. If you don't have an ad, you're not getting that 14%, right? You're not doing Google pay-per-click. You're not getting those people. 32% will click on the local map pack, up to 35% really with the map itself. If you're not in that listing, you're not getting any of that 33% traffic, right? SF Custom Chiropractic, who we just showed you, they're getting double. They're getting 2/3 of that sliver of traffic, which is great. Lastly, 50% of people will still scroll down. They'll still skip the ads, and they'll still skip the Google Map Pack, and they'll look for one of the 3 natural results in Google. 50%. Again, if you're not there in the top 3, you're not getting really any of that traffic as well. So the best place to be, all 3 spots, right? That is going to put you in the leading practice position. And that's where we see these results as an example. Now, why do we want to give attention to Google My Business? Well, Google My Business has made it clear that they're giving a lot of attention to ranking them, right? They're showing them higher in search results and things like that. So we showed you an example of what that looked like. But when someone clicks on that listing in the Google Map Pack, they get an option to go to the website, but many don't go to the website. Many just click on the listing. And what does it do? Well, it takes them to Google Maps, right? It blows up what you see on the right-hand side of the slide. And there they are, and they've got this big blow up, and they've got the reviews in front of them. They got a phone number, and they got 4 actions they can take that you see at the top of that card, right? They can click to go to the website. They can click to get directions to the office. They can save it for later, or they can click and just make a phone call right there from that card. Now, unless they click go to the website, none of that is tracked in your Google Analytics, right, for your website, unless they go to your website. They might just take action, come right in, and never even go to your website. So what does that mean? It means we have to track that too, right? So you have to have a mechanism for tracking Google My Business actions. And if you're doing it right and you're optimizing it, you're going to see a whole nother influx of leads and patients that come into your practice, like you see here on this chart, right? So we showed this to you earlier, but as you can see at the bottom, each color of the bar represents something different, right? So some click the call button, some click to visit your website, some click the request directions. All those actions at the end of the month, we track and tally them. Well, that's a lot of new patients that came in the door, maybe without ever visiting their website. Again, we track calls specifically. We can see 465 clicked on the Google My Business listing and click to call using the phone number. So very important that we track that information. Now, let's talk about building your 2021 plan, okay? What does it need to look like? Well, you're going to find this handout in our reward section. We're going to reveal that in just a few more minutes as we conclude our presentation today. It's got the full wheel, right? All the things that you need to be doing in order to increase conversions and grow your practice. What does that involve? Well, let's take a moment and look at what kind of results that you should be getting if you're really doing everything you need to be doing with your marketing program, right? What kind of results? We talked about a 400% ROI, but what should it look like in real terms? What's a real example from us as a leading practice working with our clients? We're just going to show you 2 brief examples, okay? We're not going to waste your time with a bunch. We're already running overtime. So again, just to recap, these are clients that were using our online strategy that we just went over with you, right? So we got a website built to convert, we got SEO, Google Maps, online review, strategic pay-per-click campaigns, we're running Facebook ads, we're doing automated follow-up, and we're tracking everything. What should it result in? The answer is what you see here. So this is Dr. Jacobs with SF Custom Chiro. Now I'm going to play the video. And as I do, it's very short, but I want you to listen to a couple key things he says, right? Number 1, how long had he been working with us when he got these results and what kind of transition did he make for his practice. So pay attention.
Hi, I'm Dr. Adam Jacobs of SF Custom Chiropractic. Prior to 2020, my business was booming. Everything was going really well. Pandemic hit. We took about 25% reduction in our collections and business. So I wanted to start off 2021 with up the game in my marketing, and decided to look out. I found the leading practice, who has been great so far, 3 months in, and last month we had our best month in a couple years. So I love that they have a dashboard that has all the different leads that come into it, and we can communicate easily with possible clients and our existing clients. I love that the communication with the leading practice itself is very easy to do, and they're accessible, and they listen to my goals that I'm trying to achieve and ideas that I might bring to the table. And so far, so good. I would recommend them to anybody that has a small business looking to grow, either in the healthcare field or whatever else. And so thanks so much, Leading Practice. Appreciate your help.
All right, well, there you have it. So did you notice Dr. Jacobs, what he expressed, right? Very, very real, very raw. He wasn't putting on a show at all. He's just giving you the facts. Did you notice how far he was down in revenue? So he was down 25%, which is a heavy blow, right? He actually had to close one of his locations. And let me ask you this question. Do you think that when you're 25% down in revenue, that's the time to invest in a big marketing program? Is that the time to start spending $5,000 a month in marketing? Well, what do you think? Put a yes or no in the chat for me, and let me know what you think. Would you start spending $5,000 a month if you're down 25% in revenue? So no way. So a couple of no way. No, I wouldn't do that, right? Because you're worried about losing money. Some say yes, they would, because you need marketing to get a return, and that's really the key, right? So that's the key is if your marketing program is getting you a return, then the answer is yes. And so that's what Dr. Jacobs did. And, did you notice how far in he was in the program when he said that he just had his best month in years? Yeah, he's only 3.5 months in. So that's still brand new, right? We just barely finished setup, barely got things rolling, and he had his best month in years. So that's the kind of results that you want to get when your marketing program is really doing its job, okay? Let's jump to our next case study real briefly. This is Dr. Clayton Ellswick. Great guy, great chiropractor, great reviews, super nice. I mean, his patients just love him. He's based in Lexington, Kentucky. Full service chiro, been practicing over 40 years. When we first met Dr. Ellswick, he didn't even own his website. It was owned by the marketing company. They sucked him into paying a huge monthly fee. He had no idea really what he's spending on marketing, because it was all over the board and hard to track, and he's trying to treat patients. Maybe you could relate to that, right? So many chiropractors we talked to are in the same boat. And then at the end of it, the part that really got my attention was he's only getting 10 to 12 new patients per month, right? So he's spending all this money, it's leaking out in different ways, and only getting 10 to 12 new patients per month. Well, by April, again, just a few months in, I think that's month 3 or 4 for him. That's this year. Again, it's current clients. These are not old, that stuff we did 10 years ago. No, this is live, current stuff. He just told us he got 70 new patients in April, right? In fact, he's so busy, he won't even return my emails and text messages anymore. So Dr. Ellswick, if you're watching, if you're tuned in, give me an email back. I'd love to talk with you about how things are going. So again, kudos to them, and kudos to the team for helping them reach those goals. So when the time comes for you to build your custom plan, use that checklist, right? It's in the workbook, and it's also included in part of our rewards program. What about determining your marketing budget? So this is a huge conversational problem that we run into, right? What should your marketing budget be? I just talked to a chiro yesterday, and he said, I set my marketing budget at $2,000 a month. Okay, that's great. What's it based on? And he says, I just picked a number. Well, what do you mean you just picked a number? What's it based on, right? There's industry standards. So when you're setting your marketing budget, if you want to have success, you have to use standards, right? When you treat a patient, you don't make up the treatment as you go. You use the training and the industry standards that you already have been trained to use, right? Because they get good results. So there's a way of setting that. So the Small Business Administration says this, that a small business with revenues less than 5 million a year should allocate 7 to 8% of their revenue to marketing. This percentage also assumes that you have margins in the range of 10 to 12%, right? So you're turning a profit after you paid all those expenses. Now for you, maybe your profit margin is even higher than that. Maybe you can invest a little more, like 10% into your marketing program. Well, the reality is if you have a good program and a good plan, a good strategy, and your money is being utilized to maximize your return, then that budget should be doable. If your budget is too low, don't expect to grow, right? Don't expect to get all these new patients if you're running $1 million practice and you're only spending $2,000 a month. Why? Because your competitors are following the standard, right? They're spending more, so they're going to dominate the market. And in order to compete, you have to be in the same bracket. How can you determine your marketing budget? Well, we've given you a really nice worksheet. Again, the link here is at the top. It will also be included at the end of the video webinar. And again, you can click the link, go through it. It's a spreadsheet that's all geared. Plug in your revenue numbers, plug in what you like to see for your investment, and it will tell you exactly what your numbers should be month over month. And you can then use them as your benchmark to track your earnings. Lastly, determine the ROI. What do you expect to return from your marketing program, right? So here's some basic examples. If you spend $5,000 a month in marketing, I use that because that's about the 6% of an average practice, right? So average practice might be $650,000 to $800,000 a year, right? So when you back that out 6% and you go monthly, it's around $5,000 to $6,000 a month, right? That should be your marketing budget, total marketing budget. What should be the return on investment if you spend that? Well, if it's 100%, if you spend 5K, you get 5K. If you're 200% ROI, you should be getting double your money back, right? So you earn 10K, 300%, 15, 400%, 20K in revenue. And it should be all trackable, measurable, attributed to specific patients based on their patient value. So determine what that is for you. What's your minimum that you expect to see? We like to see a 300 to 400%. And we definitely shoot for higher than that if we can get it. So action items for you. What are your top 3 internet marketing initiatives that you need to implement to hit your 2021 goal? Take a few minutes and write down your top 3 things that you want to take away, things that you want to implement. What is it? Is it your website? Is it your social media? Is it setting your revenue goals? What are your goals? New patients, doing that calculation, determining what that looks like. What is it for you? Is it putting in place a tracking system so you can really see what's coming in? Is it consolidating software, maybe getting rid of all these things you haven't used or aren't really using? Cut them loose, things that are done by other tools like MyDC, cutting them loose, switching over, rolling everything into one spot. What is it for you? Take just a minute and write that down, your top 3 initiatives that you want to target as soon as you're done watching this webinar or replay. Okay, write them down and let's see what you get. I'll give you just about 30 seconds to go ahead and do that. All right, so I know that's a short window. Again, you've got the worksheet. You can always come back and fill those in later. But hopefully you've got some action items and takeaways that you can take away from this webinar to help you with that. So what did you learn from the second part of this program? What did you notice? Anything you'd like to share that stood out to you as something that, hey, that's a really good point. I need to implement that in my practice. Type it in the chat for me, and let's see what jumped out to you. Learning how marketing works. Great. Yeah, giving more thought to that, right? It's hard when you're busy with your practice to spend time on marketing. And that is one thing that makes it nice. If you have a marketing company that you can trust, that you know and they have proven results. Takes a little bit of that pressure off, but it's hard to learn all that. It takes a lot of time to keep up with it as well. Finding the right person to do all these things. Absolutely, right? Because a lot of times you get one person that's good at SEO and one that's good at social media. And when something goes wrong, what happens? They point the finger at each other instead of working together to resolve the problem. So having a nice, maybe a singular company or team that will help you reach those goals certainly can do wonders. Working on Google My Business. Good. So you didn't know what that was. And you know what? A lot of people don't. They don't know what Google My Business is, why they should be giving it attention, right? They're maybe giving a lot of attention to Facebook. Giving that more attention will certainly get you better results, and trying to get in the Google Map Pack. Excellent. Very good. So some nice takeaways. Thanks for sharing. We appreciate your participation. And we're going to do a little recap here. So recap for today. What have we done? We've set goals for 2021. How many leads to hit your target? You've calculated that. You know exactly what it is. You know where you're aimed, you're focused, you're ready to go. You learn the 3 fundamentals of marketing success. So you're not just putting out content for the sake of putting out content, but you're putting out content designed to convert patients. You learn how to optimize your website, right? To get conversions. Some key things that you can implement that are not going to just put a business card online and just sit out there, and then the patients come, visitors come, and then they just never do anything, but you're going to be able to convert them. And lastly, you see the big picture, right? How if you maximize your lead flow, you get a certain number of leads, you're going to lead to a certain number of patients based on your conversion rate, and then you're going to grow and reach your revenue. And then we shared some specific things that will help you with your custom action plan. So lastly, it's time for the rewards, right? Those of you that have stuck around for an hour and a half, kudos to you. We've covered a lot of ground, and I think we only really booked about an hour for this. But if you stuck around, if you're watching the last part of the video, maybe just skipped ahead, that's okay too. Here's your takeaway, right? So we're going to give you the ultimate marketing guide for chiropractors, right? So it's a guide you can walk through, checklist. We're going to give you the top keywords you should be targeting for your practice, and as well as a bunch of other things, right? The worksheet, calculator, some handouts, how to optimize your website, just some key things that will help you that we find that work in the space to get us the leading practices that we work with, right? So there's your URL. Take a moment, write it down if you need to, grab a screenshot, take a picture with your phone, whatever's easiest for you. Let's go.theleadingpractice.com/rewards. Okay, so click on that and feel free to take those, make a copy of them, and you're welcome to use them for your personal use. We will ask that you don't publish them anywhere on a public domain though, right? So if you're a marketing person and you're looking for good handouts, you're welcome to read it, but then go ahead and make your own. Okay, so thanks, we appreciate that. So for those who want DFY, right? That stands for done for you. Now, some of you may have a limited budget. Maybe you don't have any way of really paying a marketing company at this time. You don't have the capital to invest and hope that you get the return, right? Because it's a little bit of a risk there. We understand that. But for others, so for those of you that are in that bracket, if you don't have the budget, you're not interested in working with somebody, feel free to drop off. We're just going to cover a couple quick things as we wrap up. For those who are interested in having a company do their marketing for you, right? Done for you. So here's the things that would qualify you maybe in this bracket, right? You're a chiropractor, you're successful, you don't have time, you don't have the desire, you don't have the energy to run a marketing plan and try to keep up with it every year and go in and manage people and manage and referee between different web designers and SEO person and ad person and review guy and all this stuff. You just don't want to do that. Maybe you prefer to treat patients or run your practice, right? That's your focus. Maybe you're too busy to learn the software and the strategies. Maybe you're too busy to train people, right? You just don't have the time to do that, right? To dive into all that stuff. And really, you just want a turnkey solution that has a proven, trustworthy track record, right? Something that's already pre-designed, pre-developed, working for others. And you just want to take that and plug and play and have someone manage that for you, right? Done for you. They're accountable. You have a marketing budget, you're ready to spend, and you just want the return, right? You just want to give somebody $1 and get $4 back and get that return. Well, if that's the case, then we encourage you to book a strategy session with myself or with Jeff. We would love to speak with you. There's the URL. You probably have it from some of our emails. But again, you just go in. We don't ask for a lot of information up front, although we will need some if we're really going to help you reach your goals. But it's go.leadingpractice.com/schedule. And just go ahead and fill out the calendar. Give us your name, email, phone number, book some time. We start with just a 30-minute discussion, make sure we're a good fit to work together, and then we'll discuss our program, right? And we do have a couple different tiers depending on the size of your practice. Now, to be fair and to prevent you from wasting your time, if you're a small practitioner, right, like you're only making maybe $250,000, $300,000 a year, well, our program is probably not for you, right? If you're not at least over $500,000, $600,000, you're probably not going to have the budget. So again, we have some lower tiers. We can try to help you get off the ground if you're a startup, but really, if you're a little bit larger practice, you'd be an ideal fit to work with us and get the results. So that really will conclude our webinar. I'll leave you with this: do something great, right? Take action, implement. None of this stuff is of any value to you if you watch this video or you're tuning in the webinar live. None of it's of any value to you if you don't put it into practice, right? So put it into practice, make your practice the leading practice. So thanks so much for joining. I look forward to meeting you. Book some time with me, and I'd love to talk with you about how you can take some of these things and really implement them and see and reach your revenue goals. I look forward to helping you do that. Thanks so much for attending, and we'll give it back to Jeff.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Wow. That was a ton of information. Most of the people that were watching this are probably going to have to go back and rewatch some of that. There was so much information, moved very, very quickly through it. But thank you for breaking that down in a nice, simple way that we can not only learn the fundamentals of marketing, but be able to implement some of those things even on their own. So thank you very much, everybody, for watching, and stay tuned for upcoming webinars. Have a great day.